In this video, I'm going to explain the differences between Western chef's knife versus Japanese and Chinese chef's knives. Not only will you know the differences, you will also be able to select a knife that's most suitable for you. Hello guys, I'm Chef Panko and I work in a Japanese sushi and grill restaurant. Subscribe to my channel for everything about cooking and knives. Before we start, I want to say that this is a guideline and you don't need to follow my advice. It does not matter if you are a home cook, culinary student or a cook that works in a professional kitchen. The most important thing for you to know is what kind of cuisine you want to cover. Each cuisine has their own knife that is most suitable for the task. Before I start suggesting a knife that is suitable for you, you need to figure out what your main gripping style is before we start looking at any of the knives. You may have heard from chefs that you are holding your knife wrong. It does not matter what gripping style you use. The most important thing you should know is that it is comfortable to hold for you. For example, I switch gripping styles for different cuisines and knives all the time. You probably have heard that the fingertip grip is the worst grip and you should never use it. And yet, many sushi chefs mainly use the fingertip grip for the majority of the time, but more about that in a different video. So what is your preferred gripping style? A pinch grip at the blade or at the handle? A thumb grip at the handle or a fingertip grip? Remember it or write it down, because I will explain why it is important to know what your primary gripping style is. Let's talk about the balance point and why a certain chef like a front heavy, back heavy or middle balanced knife. Remember when I said that you need to know what kind of cuisine you want to cover? The same is true for the balance point and why a certain chef like the balance point on a different place. Western cuisine tends to prefer a back heavy knife, in other words a handle heavy knife. This helps with the rock chopping motion for things like herbs, but it also helps with going through small bones by using the heel of the knife. It is a sturdy knife with a thicker spine. You can break down a chicken without any problem or worrying about chipping the blade. The blade will probably bend, but you can easily fix it with a honing rod. Japanese cuisine tends to be more middle balanced, and the reason for that is that they mainly slice instead of chop, and they also have different knives for different tasks. Most Japanese knives are very light, very sharp, but also more brittle and prone to chipping, if used like a Western chef's knife. The spine thickness of Japanese knives are usually very thin. A Gyuto is recommended if you are planning to switch from a Western chef's knife to a Japanese chef's knife. Chinese cuisine prefers a front heavy knife, and the main reason is that the front of the knife is sharper than the heel. Since Chinese cuisine requires delicate slicing skills at the tip and heavy bone chopping at the reinforced heel. The Chinese knife is similar to the Western chef's knife, and I will say that it is even more sturdier than the Western chef's knife like the Wusthof. It is less sharp, but because of the added weight, it helps with the cutting force. And then you have the fusion cuisine, a mix between Western and Asian knives, tends to be balanced at the bolster. Usually it is a Japanese styled knife with a Western handle that is balanced at the bolster, suitable for Western and Japanese cuisines. That does not require you to chop through bones. Now that you know why certain chefs prefer a different balance point, it is now for you to decide what kind of knife is the most suitable for you depending on your gripping style and cuisine choice. So we start with the handle choices. We have different handles that's suitable for different gripping styles. However, due to the design of the knife and the weight, there's a limited option to hold the knife. The following example are the traditional standard Western handle with no pronounced fish belly or a curve on the top. I have 3 examples of this handle, and that is the Swilling, but the Wusthof Classic has a similar handle design, the Tojiro Gyuto, a Japanese fusion knife, and the Ziba Z, a Chinese fusion knife. Here you have a back heavy and a front heavy knife with a similar handle design. The mentioned knife handle is suitable for all gripping styles. However, due to the design and weight, a pinch grip for the Swilling and the Chinese cleaver is the best gripping option. Pinch grip is the best for the Swilling due to the design of being back heavy and catered to the Western cuisine. Since the handle is universal, a pinch grip at the blade, bolster or the handle is best suitable for this knife design. Since the Western cuisine is a rock chopping motion, which require more force than a Japanese knife and cuisine. A fingertip grip is not recommended on Western chef's knife because it puts a lot of strain on your finger, especially if you use Western knife techniques. A pinch grip at the blade or bolster is best suitable for Chinese cleavers. This is because the blade is front heavy and we usually switch to the fist or handle grip where we need to go through bones like spare ribs or duck. The Chinese cuisine loves to go through small bones like spare ribs and chicken. Western cuisine is usually one plate per person. Chinese cuisine is one bowl per person with shared side dishes, which requires you to break down one single chicken thigh into multiple pieces to share. The Japanese Gyuto with a Western full tang handle is suitable for all gripping styles without feeling any discomfort because of its weight, and that includes the fingertip grip that all Western chefs tell you that the grip is not good for you. However, since Japanese knives are designed for the Japanese cuisine, you will see some limitations in some of the Japanese Gyutos, and that is that the knuckle clearance is not great if you use a handle or bolster grip. In the Japanese cuisine, we usually use a fingertip grip. This is because of the less knuckle clearance on most Japanese knives, also because of the sharpness of the blade and the knife skills. We usually slice rather than rock chop or rock slice. When it's required to go through bones, we switch to something like a dabba. Now that you understand the differences between the knives and intended use, it is time to explain the handle choices. Traditional Japanese wooden handles have an oval and an octagonal handle design. Those are suitable for all gripping style. However, each of those handles will feel different in your hand. It is recommended to use a slicing motion rather than a rock chopping or rock slicing. Since the blade is harder and more prone to chipping and breaking, it is necessary to adapt and change your knife skills. Especially with the traditional handles of the Japanese knives that has been glued together. So it is less durable, and therefore it is not recommended to use knife skills from the Western cuisine on Japanese traditional wooden handles. I personally hate the traditional oval shape, so I can recommend the octagonal handle over the oval shape, which will cost you around $50 more for just an octagonal handle with the exact same blade. We also have the Japanese Western design or fusion handles. It is more popular to the Miyabi and Shun, since those knives are heavily marketed to the Western market. The Miyabi has a fish belly curve, which is preferred to use a pinch grip to make use of the fish belly curve. The Shun use a D shape, which I prefer over the fish belly curve from the Miyabi. You will see more and more Japanese manufacturers switching to a D shape over the oval handle. A D shape is suitable for all gripping styles. There are more and more handle designs to discuss. The most important thing to know is that you need to know why a certain knife has a different balance point and what gripping style you like to use. You can always learn or adapt to a different knife skill. The most important thing is to know why and when we use a certain gripping style on a certain knife. After that, you can decide what balance point and handle is the most suitable for you. You also have choices in material like plastic, G10 or wood. Wood requires more attention and care. It can break or split if not taken care of. Also, in some countries and cuisines, wooden handles are forbidden in the professional kitchen. Just to give you a few examples on why I like a certain handle, I'm going to name a few popular handle designs. You have the traditional Western handle design. The Western handle is good for all gripping styles, but dependent on the blade design, weight, balance point and intended use, it is not always smart to use a certain grip like a fingertip grip. And then you have the traditional Japanese handle, an oval and an octagonal shape. They are both suitable for all gripping style. I prefer the octagonal a lot more since it gives me the extra grip I want. Since the blade is mostly very light, it is suitable for all gripping style. However, you need to keep in mind that the rock chopping with a pinch grip is not recommended, especially with the high carbon core material. And the Japanese Gyuto tend to have less knuckle clearance versus a Western chef's knife. There are many variations of handles. My advice is to try each out in a cooking store. Even when you plan to buy a knife online, it is recommended to hold the handle in a store first before investing online. The good news is that most handle designs are pretty much similar in size and design. I will try and explain the handle for each future knife that I will review on this channel. For example, I like the fish belly curve handle on a Chinese cleaver, but not on a Gyuto, like the one on the Miyabi Artisan series. I also hate handle design that force you in a gripping position. Any other gripping position than the designed one will feel uncomfortable. An example of this handle design is with the new Global Size series. It forces you to use a pinch grip with a forced thumb rest. Not only do I hate global handle design from the Size series, the original Global series is something I dislike too. The extra grip from the dotted handle works, but the cleaning after a service is hard on the dotted handle design. Even when you thought that you scraped all the food out of the handle, you will see dried food sticking in the dots the day after. Now let's talk about the core material of each blade. Each knife will use a different core material for the knife. We have the Japanese stainless steel types like the VG10, AUS 10, AUS 8, powdered steel like SG2 or SDK11. We also have Japanese high carbon steel, which is not rust resistant, like the Shirogami or Aogami, which is also called white and blue steel. We have German steel types and American steel types with different names. Each steel type has their own plus and downsides. For a complete list, see the description below in this video, where I explain each steel type. What you have to know is no matter what steel type, each manufacturer will have a different quality even when they use the same steel. To give you a guideline, we use the Rockwell hardness to determine what knife is suitable for you. Also make sure to click on the link in the description below so that you can pinpoint what steel type is suitable for your intended use. If you are a home chef that wants to explore different cuisines and want to regularly break down a complete duck or chicken, a knife with a Rockwell hardness of 56 to 58 is the best suitable for you. And to name a few, a Victorinox, Wusthof, Zwilling and the Global use this Rockwell hardness. Those knives are all stainless steel, so you don't have to worry about rusting. The recommended length is dependent on your cooking space and cutting board. The knife should never be longer than your cutting board at home. I recommend an 8-inch for home cooks. The above mentioned hardness and knife type is also recommended for culinary students. Since you move from class to class, you probably won't have time to dry your knife completely before storing it in your knife roll. The Chinese all-purpose cleaver is recommended for home chefs that want to be able to do everything a Western chef's knife can do, but then with a better knuckle clearance and knuckle guide. You will lose the rocking motion, but this knife is capable of everything a Western chef's knife can do, but not really suitable for fish filleting task. The Chinese all-purpose cleaver is not recommended for culinary students, since it is heavy and not practical to take it with you from class to class, with all your other kitchen tools. The Chinese all-purpose cleaver is the only knife for professional cooks that works mainly with Chinese dishes. As a professional cook, it really depends on what kind of cuisine and dishes you are covering. Like I said, a chef that works in a Chinese cuisine should never look at Western and Japanese knife. Therefore, I recommend you to look at the blade design, balance point and keep in mind what handle suits your gripping style before buying a knife. I recommend the stainless steel types with a HRC of 56 to 58 for your all-purpose knife. Or a HRC of 60 to 61 if you know that you don't have to go through bones. 60 to 61 HRC is usually on Japanese fusion knives for the Western market and they use steel type like an AUS 10 or VG10. Breaking down a chicken or filleting fish bones is possible with those steel types. However, since the steel is hard, the chances of incorrect use will result in a chipped blade. It is inadvisable to use it on any bones, since you will lose its sharpness very fast and the risk of chipping the blade is high. Remember that it does not matter how sharp your knife comes out of the box. If you don't know how to sharpen the knife by yourself, then you are better off with a cheap $20 knife instead of a 300 super sharp out of the box Japanese hand-forged knife. I will make a separate video about choosing your first Japanese knife. I will explain why you go for a certain Japanese steel with a high Rockwell hardness of 62 to 65. You will get a complete breakdown of my decision about buying a Japanese knife. That's it for this video. If you have any questions, leave them behind in the comment section below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to know more about cooking, knives and how to sharpen your knife, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.